Welcome to my Iconic History channel, where we're going to talk about the assassination attempts on US presidents. Being the president of the United States has its challenges: diplomacy, the economy, wars, opposition parties. Some of these parties are even named after popular British drinks that gay men just so happen to love to spill. How American. However, one occupational hazard many don't speak about anymore are the attempted and sometimes successful assassinations of the quote-unquote leader of the free world. From crashing planes, to forklifts gone awry, to the trusty magic bullet, and no, not the one you get at Macy's, these are the stories of presidents who had attempts made on their lives. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the Iconic History channel. Share, like, and leave a comment to tell us what you want to hear about next. Without further ado, welcome to The President Has Been Shot. I know, brings up such happy feelings. Let's start with
President Andrew Jackson, who was America's craziest. As such, he had a bit of a reputation. Architect of Native American genocide, cantankerous to the point of wanting to shoot an opposing senator and hang his own vice president, while expressing regret at not being able to do so, and he was a legendary duel master. No. Not that duel master. This kind of duel master. He was 2-0, which resulted in 2 bullets being lodged in his body for life. One could say he was homicidal, genocidal, and suicidal. Marketable gimmick.
You would think with Jackson's attitude, his numerous political opponents, and having powerful enemies like John C. Calhoun, Henry Clay, and numerous displaced and shafted Native Americans, that any one of these people would want to break off a piece of Andrew Jackson's ass and give him the Queen of Hearts treatment to settle the scores. Why? Because he's a real-life supervillain. He also bears a striking resemblance to Magneto. However, it wasn't Jackson's exploits with politicians that led him to be shot at least not this time. Instead, the first assassination attempt on a US president came at the hands of an insane painter. Like most artists, Richard Lawrence was a tortured soul. While growing up in Virginia, the English-born Lawrence was a regular, upstanding, moral man. But things started to take a turn when long days and hours over the course of years of painting houses led to the deterioration of his mental sanity. Please, don't sniff paint, kids. His behavior became erratic, violent, as well as delusional. He convinced himself that he was King Richard III of England. You know, the king who lost the War of the Roses and ended the houses of Plantagenet and New York, who also died in 1485. Nevertheless, despite being dead for over 300 years, Lawrence was convinced he was Richard III and that he had estates in the U.S., and was convinced that Jackson, through his opposition to the Second National Bank, was in the way of his bag being secured. How does he remedy that? Kill Jackson. The date of this attempt was to be done on January 30th, 1835, in Washington, D.C. Lawrence had followed Jackson's movements, and on this day, Jackson was to attend the funeral of South Carolina Congressman Warren Davis, who had died the day prior. They certainly didn't waste time interring their dead, did they? Initially, the plan was to bust a cap in Jackson's presidential ass on the way into the funeral, but Richard III couldn't get near enough to his target, so he waited and tried again as Jackson left. As Jackson passed the east portico, Lawrence sprung into action, aimed his gun at Jackson's back, and pulled the trigger. Only the gun misfired. Undaunted by this embarrassing misfortune, Lawrence tried again, and again it misfired. Now Jackson, not one for the foolishness, was clued into what happened and beat the brakes off of Lawrence with his cane until Lawrence was wrestled to the floor by a group of men, including Davy Crockett. Jackson came away unscathed. He finished his second term of office and died in 1845. Lawrence was found not guilty by reason of insanity and subsequently spent the next 26 years in insane asylums until his death in 1861. So there you have it. Andrew Jackson used his metal bending to keep the guns from firing. Actually, it was the damp weather that caused the two misfires, and Richard Lawrence had to suffer the humiliation of having two guns misfire and then get publicly beat down by a 67-year-old man. What do you think? Let us know in the comments and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check out our other videos, and as always, comment on the topic you'd like to hear about next.